And we're back. I don't know how to speak into a camera anymore. Yeah, so I think after this episode, we're actually going to be I'm going to be posting every Monday after this. So this is the last episode that'll be out on Wednesdays. We're going to change it to Mondays just because analytically it's the best. What else? We have a new name for the show. Or not the show in general. It'll still be ill-equipped, but for this series in the meantime, until I graduate, the original name of this quote-unquote season was going to be Super Senior because that's exactly what I am. I'm going to be graduating, fingers crossed, knock on wood, in December. So in the meantime, it's been 5.5 years of school, so I am by all means a super senior. And yeah. What's new? School started. I'm recording on Tuesday night, which is horrible, and this comes out tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. It is currently 9 p.m., meaning I have to record and edit everything, but who cares? School was yesterday, first day. It was easily one of the worst first days of school I've ever had. I left my house at 6:40. My first class is at 8:30, and I was like, you know what? I have time. The ETA says 7:20, and I start driving, and it says like, oh, it's gonna be 40 minutes. I was like, all right, chill. And the longer I was in traffic, the 40 minutes never changed. And the closer I got, it actually increased all the way up until I hit an hour and 20 minutes. And I was pissed, understandably, because I'm freaking out. I gotta get to class. I have to be there on time. I want to get a fucking chill-ass group for my lab. I shouldn't curse that early on in the episode, but whatever. Yeah. And it sucked, and I'm getting all mad. I was tweeting about it. I was texting my friends, calling anyone. I was like, hey, do you guys know what's going on? And finally someone replied back to me, and she said, someone died on the freeway. Go home. And I was like, first of all, rest in peace. This traffic no longer seems so bad because I'm still alive. And I hope whoever was in that accident, I hope your family's okay. My condolences. My second thought was the second part of her message saying, go home. I can't. She told me, she's like, oh, I called off of work. I can't do that. It's a lab. I can't just like say, you know what? Calling off today, guys. It's my first day. I might get dropped, but I'm not showing up. That's not an option for me, unfortunately. So, yeah. I'm adjusting the mic, sorry. What else? Oh yeah, so the lab goes from 8:30 until 11:30 or 11:45, around that time period. I got to class at 9:40. I left my house at 6:40, so 3 hours. But if you do the math, I was in traffic longer than I was in class because it's a lab, so the first day we do easy stuff like pipetting. If you know what pipetting is, fine, you know it's easy. If you don't know, that's when you take a liquid and you control how much you're pulling up, so you have an exact measurement. You could be like, this is 1 microliter. I don't think people can... 1 microliter is basically 1 drop of water, and you measure that to a T. Give or take 0.0 microliters. That's 10 to the negative 6. That's an insanely small magnitude. Anyways, we did that. We were really fast because, again, I'm a super senior, and the people with me in my group are really good at this because we've been doing it for years at this point. So it took us like 40 minutes. And so we were out of class. I was in class for like 50 minutes. I was in traffic for an hour of it. Stupid. Anyways, yeah, I don't want to check the news because it's sad and it's not really what I want to look into today. But today's topic is actually, we're doing what this show was meant to do, and we're going to learn something. Probably won't be too long, but it's a fun topic. At least it's light. It's a light topic because we're actually talking about light. And we've mentioned light in the past in episodes where we were like, okay, what's the speed? Basically understanding. We're basically trying our best to understand what the speed of sound was. Sorry, I just blanked really hard because I was trying to read my notes. I forgot exactly. You know what? Before I lie to everyone, what's it? Out of my way. Oh. Sorry, I hit the mic with my headphone. There it is. It's 200 million 90. Oh my god. 299,792,458 meters per second. That is the speed of light. I was going to say sound. Jesus. It's really fast. It's the fastest known speed, and then in our perceived? In our known universe, it's the fastest thing. We don't know anything that could physically get near to how fast that is. The fastest objects that we can create other than light will always be near it. It will never exceed it, at least from what we understand. And basically the way that light works, or how we perceive light, is an electron is excited. So imagine a ladder, and at the bottom of the ladder is called ground state. If you add any energy, oh my god, I'm so bad at this. Okay, you have a ladder. At the bottom is called ground state. On that ladder is one electron. If you add energy, aka heat, or some kind of, it's heat, any kind of energy, that electron will jump up the ladder. And then once it cools down-ish, or it loses that energy, it will return to ground state. And what happens when it returns to ground state is that it shoots out a photon, and that is what is called light. Now, there's another thing called absorption of light, meaning instead of the electron dropping to ground state, it just stays at that ladder rung, and nothing is emitted. So what happens is that material will usually get warm. Okay? I think we understand that. Okay. Just letting you process that. Oh my god, I'm so bad at recording now. Jesus. Anyways. So absorption is the frequency of incoming light waves or particles at or near the energy levels of the electrons in the matter, meaning the electrons will absorb the energy of the light and change their energy state. And like I just said, if it returns to ground state, shoots out light, or it just retains it and the light is absorbed. Cool. The best known thing to absorb light in our universe is a black hole. That's why it's called a black hole, because the color black, which we've mentioned again in a past episode, is the absence of light being emitted. And so with a black hole, its only job is to suck in everything, and it's at a high enough velocity to which light can no longer escape it. That's how fast it's sucking in. Cool. And so depending on whatever organism is viewing things, their retinas and the cones in their eyes can perceive different levels of light. Now, we are only used, as a human, we are used to the visible light spectrum. And that ranges from... I'm so bad at this. Okay. 380 to 750 nanometers. Just to clarify, light is measured in nanometers, and that's going to be the frequency at which their wavelengths are reaching maximums and minimums, whatever. Now, outside of those ranges, outside that range of 380 to 790, we go into ultraviolet and infrared and non-visible light and stuff like that. Animals have been known to see outside of those spectrums, even dogs. They absorb more light than we do. Snakes, we always hear they see in thermal. That's true. A lot of things can detect heat. We just can't from our eyes. We can feel it though. However, our brains understand that if something's bright, it's usually from a source of heat. But we're not nearly enough evolved for that yet. Sorry, I'm speaking so fast I'm getting lightheaded. I need pause. Again, this podcast is not sponsored by Liquid Death, but that's all I have right now. I don't want to spill. Oh yeah, and if you watch the YouTube videos, they're all unedited, so you see how horrible I am at this, and you could see all my struggles. So if you want, you could go check it out. Oh, that sounds horrible. Anyways, back to where we were. That's how we check where we are in the recording. Okay. So, materials, whatever material is being hit with this light or that energy is what determines what we see. So if we have like a metal or we have something really shiny, basically all of the light that's hitting it is being reflected out. So we don't really see we see silver, and that's because that's actual light being reflected off of it. Anything being absorbed, any wavelength being absorbed, is what we don't see. And that's why when you shine something really shiny on something, like, oh my god, if you shine something really bright onto a very reflective surface, it looks really shiny, and that light is usually white because it's reflecting all of the wavelengths. I'm brain farting so hard throughout this episode because I just got off of work, just to clarify. And so when we have things like glass and water, we see it to an extent of it's opaque to ultraviolet light, but it's transparent to visible light. So if you have a clear glass of water, you could see through it because our eyes only perceive visible light. If you gave it ultraviolet light and you had like some camera that could view it, it reflects directly back into the camera. It's really bright, actually. It reflects all of that. Versus glass, it's the same thing. It's opaque to ultraviolet, but transparent to visible light. So it's a weird thing, and it's really cool because we don't get to see it, but we have instruments that allow us to see that kind of stuff, and that's really helpful to us to understand how like things around us aid in what we do. Like you can buy a film for your window and it makes it 90% impenetrable to UV light and UV rays, which is pretty important because UV rays are what can cause cancer. It also heats up your room a lot. It's horrible. It's annoying as shit. So that's one thing to look out for. Sorry, I keep taking so many breaks. I'm so tired right now. Anyways, my lab that I've been working in, my research, we use an instrument called UV-Vis. That's just the short term. Its full name is ultraviolet to visible spectroscopy, or ultraviolet / visible spectrophotometry. Jesus. And it's an instrument used, and it uses one basic law called the Beer-Lambert law. And if you've ever seen it, you know how annoying it is to see it every time. It's a very simple calculation. It's just irritating. And it basically is E is equal to, oh my god, I already said it wrong. A is equal to E times L times C. I'm saying E because I forgot the name of the Greek letter for this, and I don't care to look it up right now. Anyways, A is the amount of light absorbed at a certain wavelength, meaning, let's say you have a little box, and you have on one side it's light, and on the other side it's a sensor. In the box is some kind of liquid with some kind of concentration, a chemical, whatever. If you shoot light, it will detect, it should be, if it's fully transparent, the same amount of light on the sensor. If any of it is absorbed, that difference is your A. That's the amount of light absorbed at a certain wavelength. So if you had a yellow liquid in the box and you shot red light through it, that sensor is going to say, hey, it's kind of missing some stuff, but it's okay. It's still there. Now, if you shot that yellow liquid with yellow light, the sensor is most likely going to pick up barely anything or nothing at all, and that's because all of it is being Oh my god, I'm explaining it wrong. Scratch all that. Jesus Christ. Okay. If you took a. If you. I don't even know how to explain this. I'm not going to explain absorbance. If you want, you could look it up. I'm so irritated that I can't explain this right now. I'm blanking so hard, and I've been doing over a year of research on this kind of stuff, and I'm so sorry for that. Anyways, E, quote unquote E, the Greek letter E, or whatever you want to call it, is the molar extinction coefficient, and it basically measures how strongly a chemical species or a substance absorbs light at a particular wavelength, meaning how good is it at absorbing that wavelength. You can have some that are really poor at it, some are really good, but that all depends on the concentration, the wavelength, the chemical, whatever it is that you're measuring. L is the distance of the light. L is the distance the light is traveling through the solution. And if you're using UV-Vis, it's usually going to be 1 centimeter. And that's because the cuvettes are usually standard to 1 centimeter, because then the calculation just becomes A is equal to E times C, because you can ignore that little 1. Now you have the C is just easily the concentration of the absorbing species. So basically that chemical in the little middle box, that concentration in some amount, whether it be moles or grams over some volume, liters, milliliters, whatever. And what it tells you when you run it through a UV-Vis, when you use that calculation and you put into UV-Vis, all it's telling you is what is the concentration of what you're measuring. And it depends. Like you can do different experiments. You could see how accurately you are creating this concentration, or if you have an unknown concentration, you can make a known concentration of something and just take 5 different levels of it. One's a really high concentration, and then it just keeps decreasing until it's barely noticeable. Then you take your unknown solution, one with an unknown concentration, and you just take a test of it, and you just fit it to that equation of the line. And from there, you could calculate the actual concentration of what you're messing around with, which is really cool. And for me personally, the way that we use it is in my lab, we're using UV-Vis, and our goal is to degrade particular chemicals in water using a process of photolysis. When I'm fully done with my thesis, I'll be doing a full episode about that. But we measure it using UV-Vis, and basically I'm taking this chemical and our goal is to degrade it into something that's harmless. And so over the course of over the course of up to 4 days, we expose it to sunlight with different things in the solution that I won't go into right now because it's a lot to explain, and clearly I'm not in the right mindset to explain it. But when we run it through the UV-Vis, on the first day you'll usually have one really high peak at a particular wavelength. And then, as hopefully, if the experiment works, as the days progress, that peak gets lower and lower and lower and lower and lower until it's at 0, meaning it's fully harmless. And the UV-Vis, the way it works is you set it for a range for which it scans through. So basically you set a rainbow, or you choose what colors it's going to be going through. For us, we go through 320 nanometers to 190. And so that wavelength the frequency is basically decreasing. Increasing? It's increasing. So it starts out at 320 nanometers because the wave peaks are pretty far apart, relatively, and they shrink over time, and so your frequency is increasing. And your goal is to get it to the lowest level, and the key is keeping it at one peak. If it starts moving around peaks and it has a higher maximum throughout it, you're going to get lost, and your data is just BS, basically. And what's interesting is I was talking to different professors other than my own, and I was like, is there any way we could use a different machine, because this thing's super old? And my professor always told me, no, it's fine, it works great. And I was like, it's so old though. Turns out you don't need a new machine. A UV-Vis a UV-Vis, I'm not saying the full name, it works very well. It's robust, it lasts forever, and nothing on it really changes. All you have to change is the bulb on it, all the little light that you shoot through. And that's it, because nothing on it is changing. You're not changing any laws of physics or chemistry, nothing. It's all staying the same as long as that equation holds true, and it has for years now. No one's debunked it. So it's basically a set in stone formula. And so my research is just one of the cool applications. You don't have to call it cool, it's just an application. It's really fun to use because it's really simple versus other machines where you have to set up a whole different contraption and then you have to let it run at different temperatures, and it's irritating as hell. This thing is just drop it in, hit the button, start, you're good. Takes like maybe 30 seconds per measurement, and it's pretty sweet. But yeah, we're just gonna do a short episode today. I'm exhausted. This is also the average retention time per episode, so we're gonna cut it there. Sorry this episode was super short, but this is all I got in me today. I'm sorry. My room smells like dog pee because the puppy's been hanging out in here a lot, and it's horrible. So hopefully if I ever have a guest, we don't have to record in here, but who knows, or we'll just meet on Zoom. Again, check out the Instagram, check out our YouTube page. If you can, follow us on Spotify, like us on Anchor, whatever you can do. Share the podcast. If you want to be on it, hit me up. If you have any questions, if you want us to talk about something in particular, you could send us a message. You can DM me, whatever you want to do. I don't care at this point. I'm rambling. Yeah, I honestly will probably do a follow-up podcast to this. And I know I've said that probably 3 or 4 times in the past, and I will get to those. But I'm just exhausted. I'm tired. I'm stressed. And yeah. So GG's. We'll be back next Monday at 7 a.m. Pacific time. All right. Peace. GG's. Drive safe. I didn't even hit stop on the video. Jesus.